In this video, we'll show you how to assemble your new Agri-Fab 48-inch zero-turn Dethatcher. To begin, insert a slider tube Part 2 into the hitch mount assembly Part 6 and loosely secure it with a 3/8 by 2.5 inch hex bolt Part G, 2 medium washers Part V, and a 3/8 inch nylock nut Part N. Do not tighten it yet. Then repeat for the other side. Do not tighten it yet. Then align the hitch mount assembly and loosely secure each side with a U-bolt Part 10. Note that some installations may require angling the U-bolts. Next, align a mounting bracket Part 3, 2 3/8 inch lock washers Part U, and 2 3/8 inch hex nuts Part P. Do not tighten them yet. If your installation requires the additional mounting bracket kit, align the longer U-bolt and then assemble a mounting bracket as a riser. Then repeat for the other side. Then align the hitch mount assembly and proceed as seen in the previous steps. Most mowers won't require the lower mounting bracket. Ensure the slider tubes are extended past both U-bolts. Center the assembly on the tractor frame. Now secure all the fasteners. Next, align 2 pivot brackets Part 5 to the blade mount assembly Part 7 and loosely secure them with 2 3/8 by 2.5 inch hex bolts Part G and 2 3/8 inch nylock hex nuts Part N. Then repeat for the other side. To help align the brackets, insert the pivot shaft Part 8 and fully secure the brackets. Now, remove the pivot shaft. Next, insert the blade mount assembly into the hitch mount assembly and secure it with a 3/8 inch by 2 1/4 inch clevis pin Part I and a 3/32 by 2 5/16 inch hair cotter pin Part K. Then press 4 1.5 inch square plugs Part ZZ into the blade mount assembly. Now align the bulkhead Part 9 and then insert the pivot shaft Part 8. Note, final height adjustment should be made once assembly is complete. Then secure the pivot shaft with 2.785 by 1.57 by 0.057 washers Part Y and 2 3/32 by 2 5/16 inch hair cotter pins Part K. Next, align the push tube Part 1 level to the hitch mount assembly and then insert the M with the hole through it into the 9th hole from the top of the bulkhead for now. Secure it with a 0.785 by 1.57 by 0.057 washer Part Y and a 3 3/32 by 2 5/16 inch hair cotter pin Part K. Repeat for the other side. Now align a spacer Part R and insert a 3/8 by 2 inch clevis pin Part H. Secure it with a 3 3/32 by 1.8 inch hair cotter pin Part J. Next, insert the other 3/8 by 2 inch clevis pin Part H and secure it with a 3 3/32 by 1.8 inch hair cotter pin Part J. Now fully secure the 1.5 by 38 inch square tube Part 13 to the bulkhead with 2 5/16 by 2 1/4 inch hex bolts Part F, 2.344 by 1.125 by 0.12 washers Part X, and 2.312 nylock hex nuts Part M. Next, press the 2 1.5 inch square plugs Part Z into the ends. Now align a 3/8 inch U-bolt Part 10 and a mounting bracket Part 11. Fully secure it 3 inches from the end of the square tube Part 13 with 2 3/8 inch lock washers Part U and 2 3/8 inch hex nuts Part P. Repeat for the other side. Then align a lift bracket part 12 and secure it with a 1/2 inch by 4.5 inch hex bolt part C, a .531 by 1 by .059 washer part W, and a 1/2 inch nylock hex nut part O. Now insert a 5/16 by 4 inch hex bolt part D into the lower holes and secure it with a .312 nylock hex nut part M. Make sure the lift bracket rests on the hex bolt and is not trapped beneath it. Repeat for the other side. Now slide a .281 by .625 by .065 washer part T onto a 1/4 inch by 3/4 inch hex bolt part B, followed by a 5/8 OD rubber washer part S. Align it with the Dethatcher spring part 15 and Tine mount bracket part 14 and secure it with a 1/4 inch nylock hex nut part L. Add 5 more Tine assemblies, spacing them as shown. For the second Tine mount bracket, secure 6 Tine mount assemblies, so the pattern is staggered from the first one as shown. Then align the rear Tine mount assembly and fully secure it with 4 5/16 by 3/4 inch hex bolts part A and 4.312 nylock hex nuts part M. Next, align and secure the front Tine mount assembly with 4 5/16 by 3/4 inch hex bolts part A and 4.312 nylock hex nuts part M. Now align the wheel mount bracket part 16 and fully secure it with 2 5/16 inch by 3/4 inch hex bolts part A and 2.312 nylock hex nuts part M. Then slide a .531 by 1 by .059 washer part W onto a 1/2 inch by 4 inch hex bolt part E. Then slide it through the anti-scalp wheel part 17 as seen with the bolt head on the shorter side of the wheel hub. Onto the other side, slide on a .513 by 1 by .059 washer part W, and then thread on a 1/2 inch hex jam nut part Q until it's finger tight. Slide the assembly through the wheel mount bracket and secure it with a 1/2 inch nylock hex nut part O. Adjust it so that the wheel rotates easily. To adjust the Dethatcher's height, engage the Dethatcher assembly so that the wheel is on the ground. Remove the hair cotter pins part K and washers part Y, securing the push tube and pivot tube to the bulkhead. Retain all parts for reassembly. Remove the hair cotter pins part J, clevis pins part H, and spacer part R, securing the push tubes together. Remove the push tubes from the bulkhead holes. Remove the pivot tube from the bulkhead. Raise or lower the bulkhead so the tines are at least a 1/4 inch above the soil, and then install the pivot tube at the desired height. Secure the pivot tube to the bulkhead using the removed washers part Y and hair cotter pins part K. Reinstall the push tubes in the 4th hole down from the pivot tube. Secure the push tubes to the bulkhead using the removed washers part Y and hair cotter pins part K. Reassemble the push tubes and secure them with the removed spacer part R, clevis pin part H, and hair cotter pins part J. Note that the pivot tube and push tubes should be installed with 3 open holes between them.